Okay, this is my 1989 Mercedes-Benz 560 SL convertible, and this is the last year of this body style, and I bought it for about $9,500 a while ago. Thought it's an awful lot of fun. I have done a outer tie rod job, which I've posted on YouTube. And now I'm going to go for it and I'm going to try and replace the radiator. I'm going to try and film this, but I think it's going to be awfully difficult. Here's a flashlight I have set up in there. Here we see two of the connections. We see my little clip here for to hold my fan on. There's another light over there you can see. But it's only about 5 or 6 connections here, and I'm just thinking if I'm careful and I pay attention and I watch some other people do this on YouTube, I think I can do it myself. So I'm going to try and do this as best I can and film it as best I can. Okay, that's a little better for lighting. There we go. Now we can see some of the connections for replacing this. At least now I can see. Hopefully you can too. There we go. There's some of the connections down in there. Alright, I think I'm start pulling this sucker apart and going for it here. No guts, no glory. Let's see if we can do this. Because you know this is going to be like a huge money job somewhere else. So, you can't really see much over there. I don't know how well you can see it, but I see one little tube there and then one bigger tube just below it. I think the bigger tube down there is the one that when I pull that sucker off, all the fluid should just wash right out. So that's the one I'm going to try and release next. Or I should say not next, first, because that's the first thing I'm releasing. Alright, wish me luck. Alright, totally cool. There's the first coolant hose that I disconnected. I think I disconnected it without any damage. The first one I disconnected from the bottom of the radiator. And there we can see the bottom of the radiator right there. It was just a little hose clamp, you can see right there. And it took a little muscle, but I got it off there. And I'm hoping I didn't damage that hose, because that obviously has to go right back on there. So I'm going to reach and just pour out the rest. There we go. And I used a pan, trying to be environmentally responsible here. I have no idea whether... I have a feeling this stuff's probably pretty toxic, but so be it. I did get a tiniest little splash in my eye when I was doing this, so I just went up and washed out my eye. It was just the tiniest little splash, so. Alright. We can see 2 connectors up top here, so I'm going to very gently take these 2 off as well. These are next. Okay, I have no idea what this is for. I think this is maybe some overflow thingy or something. And this is just the coolant pipe directly to the engine. Both of those came off, no problem. Alright, so there's a couple more here. You can kind of see it right there. So I gotta get those 2 off. Okay, I don't know what this is, but it hooked in right there and it came off pretty darn easily, so all set there. And then if we look down in here, I'm going to try and point to it with just my little finger right there. That last little metal connection, I think that's the last one. I think so. Okay, so let's get down in there and get that. Okay, I gotta be honest, I'm not sure what's going on here, at least with this one. This metal one I'm taking off right there. You can just see it right there. That one has oil. That is not coolant coming out of there. That's oil. So I have my big pan underneath there. So I'm not exactly sure what I'm doing here, but I think I'm going to keep unscrewing it because that is oil coming out of that, not coolant. So maybe there's a car guy out there watching this thinking I'm an idiot. Well, you're right, I am. But I'm going to keep going here. Okay, I got that one that was leaking oil off, so that's all set. And glad I got my pan underneath there. So everything's off on this side. I'm going to check the other side. I think there's one more hose connection on the other side. Then it looks like right here, it looks like there's some clips. And geez, I should be able to lift this sucker right out of here. Alright. There we go, I can get a better shot of it right there. That's the one that was like leaking oil. Try and hold the camera still. There we go. Okay, I was just fooling around with the little clip that goes right in here. It was this little clip, all I could see was this little curved part right there. And I just pushed it in and then clank, out comes this whole thing. So I have no idea how to get this thing back in there. But we'll just get the other one out on the other side and see if this thing finally comes out. Okay, I've hit my first serious roadblock here. This metal piece is like a metal tube and it goes down along the bottom of the radiator at the very bottom. It is attached by 2 screws. Let's see if I could ever zoom in here. Now, can you zoom in on video? Nope, you can't. It is attached by 2 screws, actually to the radiator. And then, of course, the tube is attached to another nut, which goes to a rubber hose that's into the car. For the life of me, I cannot get the nut off, so I could release this whole assembly. And the 2 screws holding this thing onto the radiator down at the bottom are absolutely impossible to get to. So I'm not sure what the plan is at this point. So, okay. Well, there it is. I got one of them. This is attached to a little bracket which holds this thing onto the bottom of the radiator. And it was almost impossible to get to, but I must admit it couldn't have been that impossible because I did get it eventually. I wish I could get this fan shroud off or something, but I can't seem to get it out between there. It would make this a lot easier to get to. And plus, I have no idea once I get the new radiator back in how I'm going to attach that. That's going to be a mystery. So I'll figure it out as I go along. When you're frustrated, Mercedes-Benz is very kind to put this little smiley face here for you. So whenever you're frustrated, you just look at the smiley face and you feel better. Okay, finally, you can see it. There's the clasp or something that went up into this little hole behind here. Ugh, there was 2 of them. I wanted to get this thing off of here, but I could never undo this thing. So now you can see that this is free and loose. There's where it turns and goes up the side of the radiator. How I'm getting this all back on the car, I have no idea. However, I'll figure out something here, and maybe I can do something a little bit easier. Because that was a pain in the ass. Maybe I'll do like a twist tie or something. So I'm not putting it back on that same way. Alright, let me see if this radiator finally comes out. There she blows, out with the old, in with the new. You know, now that I look at it, it doesn't look in too bad a shape, but I see a lot of rust along the bottom there. And the guy told us it had a leak that couldn't be fixed, so we'll just assume he was telling me the truth, because it did have a leak. I found radiator fluid on the garage floor every day, just a little bit. So, I mean, it was leaking, there's no question about it. But gosh, I don't know, it looks in pretty good condition, I guess. So there's the new one. So we're going to get this puppy installed here. So I can't believe it. Let's take a look at the car real quick. Whew. Looks all completely empty and open in there now. Look at that. Finally, I can maybe get this thing out, but I don't want to because I've got to get it back in somehow. Alright, time to start putting this sucker back together. So I just spotted something kind of interesting here. You can see there's the clip that somehow fits in on the new one. Here's the old one, but I noticed there was this rubbery kind of thing on top of it that I pulled off of here. So I'm going to have to get those rubbery things off. I have a feeling that I'm going to need these. Holy crap, that is in. Look at that.
Dad,
Time to start putting things back on here. Well, I did get it in, and it looks good, and it feels nice and tight, but remember these pieces? That little clip right up at the top there was somehow in right there. I can't tell whether it's just my eyesight or whether the lens on the iPhone is dirty. So I think I'm going to pull it back out and see if I can get these clips back in there somehow. I think that's the smart thing to do. And of course the other clip that is now finally in was extremely difficult to get in, because you actually had to bring it sort of through the air intake here, or you had to work through this hole and that little hole to get it in. So, but it's in, so now I think it's time to start actually hooking up some of this tubing. And then here's that piece from the bottom of the radiator. I got to figure out how I'm getting that back on to the radiator. So, okay. This little connection down here has been really difficult for me. It was impossible to get the bolts out. Once I got them out, I couldn't get them back in. And then of course the fitting on the radiator was different than the original one, so the bolts didn't even fit back in. So then I went up to the hardware store to get new bolts, and of course I bought the wrong kind. So I've got a cotter pin, and I'm just going to cotter pin it for now. I'm not going to be driving the car that much anyway right now, until I can get some 6mm bolts instead of 5mm bolts. So this has been a real pain in the neck underneath here, and I haven't even gotten this one in. I haven't even gotten this one in yet down here. There's two of them. There's one right there and one right there, and then this is the bottom of the radiator. Very difficult to deal with these down here. And as usual, I ended up with some extra parts. 2 little nuts, and I don't remember what they're from.